Hey guys, I just wanted to pop on today and talk quickly about something that's been on my mind, and that is productivity and coping and how all of us are coping with all of this. So, when we first our family started socially isolating, and we've been completely isolated for about 2 weeks. We started a little early just because I have asthma. So we've been home and alone. And when this first started, one of the ways that I was coping was by being very productive. And that is the thing that I do. That is the way that I cope. That is specific to my personality. And so I was cleaning out cabinets and drawers. I cleaned out my entire garage. I changed out the kitchen cabinetry in my back house. I was boom, 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 being very productive. Um, and I know that people, I was posting some of that, and I felt like I had this responsibility to come on here and say, I think it's really important for each of us to understand that our personalities drive us to behave in different ways as a way to cope. And none of these are necessarily good or bad. Being productive and making myself busy and working is a way that I try to control my environment. It is not a way that I deal with my feelings. It is not a way that I deal with grief. It is a way that I try to control my environment. Other people cope by spacing out, by watching television. That's not bad or good either. To be honest, most of these are sort of neutral behaviors. So whether you're sitting and watching Netflix and that's how you're coping, or you are going for a run and that's how you're coping, or you are busying yourself at home with all of these different projects, these are neutral ways of coping. The reality, though, is if we want to move ourselves forward, and I am saying that I am preaching to the choir here with myself, in order to really move ourselves forward, we have to do the work of dealing with our feelings around all of this. I have not been doing that well. And so I wanted to come in and say, while I may look like I'm, succeeding and doing well in the midst of all of this, I'm actually not, because I'm just doing the thing I do where I busy myself instead of taking care of my feelings and feeling my feelings. And I want to say this too to moms as well. A lot of us have kids at home, and some of us have, created these great schedules for our kids, and we've been really proactive and forceful in making sure our kids are, enriching and learning at this time. I have been one of those people. Have I done that because I'm an amazing mom? No. Have I done that because exerting that level of control makes me feel better about feeling out of control? 100%. So, I want to say this is true also in terms of how we're coping with having our kids out of school. If you are just letting your kids play video games all day long and that's how you're coping, that's okay. If you feel like you need that structure of checking things off during the day because that makes you feel okay, also okay. None of that, again, is going to help us deal with our stress, our anxiety, our grief, our losses that are inherent in a situation like this. Because the reality is, what we're all dealing with collective loss. We're all dealing with collective grief. It's at different levels. And I've talked about this before, the importance of recognizing that your own hard is hard, that we're not playing the hardship Olympics. For some people, hard right now looks like they have a senior in high school who just missed out on all of their senior activities, and they're not going to have a graduation, and they're not going to have a prom, and they are grieving that. And for some people, it looks like total financial insecurity. And insecurity about maybe even where you live or how you're going to get food. And for some of us, it looks like massive health stress, because we have underlying conditions. And for some people, it's less disappointments. And for some people, I'm really bummed that I missed out on a concert that I had tickets to. But there's all these different levels of hard. But, as we all know, hard is subjective. And we're all dealing with disappointments right now. And we're all dealing with griefs. Some are big griefs, some are little griefs. Some of us have big traumas happening. Some of us have little traumas happening. But we are all dealing with fear, with a loss of control, a loss of structure, a loss of our routines. And surely all of us are dealing with disappointments. So I wanted to talk about, maybe some good ways to deal with all of those feelings in the midst of our coping mechanisms, which are different than, dealing with our feelings. And our coping mechanisms, again, it might look like being super productive. It might look like watching a lot of Netflix. It might look like reading a lot of books. And that is dependent on your personality. And that's, we're not going to hold ourselves to, I don't actually watch a ton of television, but I don't need to sit and watch a lot of Netflix because that's what other people seem to be doing. And maybe I'm not doing this right. But likewise, nobody else needs to organize their spice drawer because I did, because that made me feel good. So do the things that make you feel good to cope. And then we've got to deal with our feelings. So I want to talk about some ways to deal with our feelings. And I'm going to show you a couple books that I really like for that. One is this book called The Worry Trick. And this book, how your brain tricks you into expecting the worst and what you can do about it. Well, my brain was doing this well before the coronavirus. My brain really likes to play a lot of tricks on me. I have generalized anxiety disorder. But I'll be honest, I think all of us are dealing with anxiety right now. And so this is a great book, just, to teach you some habits to not getting into that catastrophizing. Another great book for this season is called Everything Happens for a Reason from Kate Bowler. And, this is, for those of you who've grown up in, maybe a Christian tradition where this sort of theological fallacy of everything happens for a reason, I think those of us who grew up with that, which is true for me, I should also mention the tagline of the book, and other lies I've loved. So, for those of us who grew up in a Christian perspective, when things like this happen, we might even struggle with trying to make meaning of it or looking for the reason, when sometimes things like this happen and there isn't a good reason. So anyway, that's a fantastic book just for dealing with some of the ways that faulty theology can affect our thinking in this. If you like daily meditations, this book called A Spring Within Us from Richard Rohr is a beautiful book of meditations. And then something that I would recommend for anybody really dealing with anxiety in the midst of this would be to look into learning how to do some cognitive thought work for yourself. This is a book that I have used in the past. Now, I am a licensed therapist, and I'm not sure that this book is available for Gen Pop, but I'm going to find some that are and link them up in the notes. But this is a 10-session CBD treatment program. And what CBD really looks like is capturing the feelings and thoughts you're having, well, taking the time to do it, number one, which, I think all of us, many of our coping ways are avoiding feeling those feelings. So, cog thought is really sitting down, feeling your feelings, and then looking at the thoughts behind your feelings and how perhaps irrational thoughts or overly anxious thoughts are deriving those feelings. And then you can sort of master your feelings by mastering your thoughts, identifying your thoughts, things like that. And then if you want to just like more of a simple, easy entry to some of this stuff, this is a 5-minute journal. I really like it. It's got prompts for every day. So if you're not a big journaler, or if you don't really want to read a self-help book, this is just a great way to take a second and really be in your feelings and be feeling your feelings. Another great option is there's so many good meditation apps, and some of them have meditations as short as 5 minutes. There's the Calm app. There's one called Simple Habit. But I just wanted to give that encouragement. And also, I did actually feel just a little bit of responsibility for, could I have been contributing to some of these feelings that people are having, that they're not doing enough or doing this right, or that they should be more productive or be doing more schoolwork, or, I'm really sensitive to that. And I actually wrote about this in my book, how I, as someone who has a blog, has an online platform, I've always worried about how, blogs or Pinterest or Instagram, it sort of promotes this comparison game, promotes this feeling that we all need to be doing things a certain way. And I think we're all going to be reacting to this very differently. And I think we all need to kind of let ourselves off the hook in different ways. I'll confess, have I remodeled half of my house? Sure. Have I read a single book in the last 2 weeks? No, not one single book. You know, and that's okay. I'm just going to let that be okay. And later tonight, I think I'm going to reorganize something. Probably something. And that's going to make me feel happy for a minute. But then I'm going to have to feel my feelings. And none of that is making me feel my feelings. So anyway, but I just wanted to pop in and say that. And I will say, I want to apologize if any, you know, of the resources that I have shared about how I'm homeschooling my kids have felt overwhelming. That's working for me. And if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. And that's totally okay. Like you don't have to be homeschooling right now. If you're just getting through the day, that's okay too. I'm being type A about homeschool because I'm type A about everything. And I'm type A because that's my control issue. Anyway, and that's not always the best in terms of mental health either. So we're all just going to try to get through this. And I just want to encourage all of you to really take the time to look into your mental health. I am really, this is on the top of my to-do list too, because I've not been doing that. I've been forging ahead, cleaning out enough drawers that I don't have to think about my feelings. So probably time for all of us to do a little of that. Hopefully some of these resources will help, and I will link them all up for you so that you can check them out yourself.